Welcome to the importance and power of reading. I'm Michelle, the computer lady, your host. During some awful dark times in America, Black people were denied the ability to read, to learn how to read, to write, or to even own books. And that has hampered our communities up until this day. Now we're going to have important conversations about the importance and power of reading. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle, the computer lady. Thank you for joining me on this segment on the importance and power of reading. Today, we have one of the most interesting people I've met in a long time, Dr. Ernest. He's a retired clinical psychologist, and he has so much to share about reading and how it's important to not only us, but our communities. Dr. Ernest, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi there.
Can you do me a favor and can you tell the folks a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
I'm PhD in clinical health psychologist. So I currently live in Durham, North Carolina, and have been for the last 2 decades. Okay, and I came here to pursue, at the invitation of people in the state, to pursue a path that was outside of psychology. That is really helping to motivate people who look like us, young Black African American students, how to best be motivated about life and doing well in school. So for me, that my training in clinical health psychology, which is all about providing people a deeper way of thinking about who they are, what drives them, their motives, taking that wisdom to educators and hopefully teaching some educators how to pass that wisdom on to their students who look like us. And it's been challenging, since most of the teachers aren't Black. Most of the teachers of our babies are white women, and there's some, racial issues and other kind of challenges that interfere with that, getting that work done.
Well, since you headed on that, I really want to discuss all these things around teaching, but not only teaching, but how we learn to read and those things. Because what I find is not only are teachers, not all teachers, but a lot of teachers, they have implicit bias. And because they have implicit bias, what we're getting is we're getting that taught to our children inadvertently. And for me, that comes from the roots in slavery, when Black people couldn't own books, nor could they learn to read and write without either facing death or the people that were helping them to face death. So very, very different. So I'm glad that you're bringing up these things in this conversation.
Yeah, and for me, fortunately, growing up, there was books always around me. I was raised in a small beach town just south of Daytona Beach, which is south of Bethune-Cookman College. I mean, we were constantly, as kids, always there. That was part of what was going on. But Cookman was always out of Bethune-Cookman was always, the students were always there, out in and around what's called Volusia County. They were out there all the time. And on a typical Saturday in my life, there would be thousands and thousands of college students from all over the South, because south of my little beach town was a haven that Mary McLeod Bethune created for people to come to the beach and to have a rest time and to celebrate with each other, and for those college students to talk with us about life and liberty, the pursuit of happiness and reading and everything else. So that was it blessed? Was it fortunate? But that's what happened. Yeah.
Well, she leaves an amazing legacy in what she does. And so that you just brought that up because I remember reading about her when I was a kid. And so getting into that, what age did you start reading at?
Books were always there. It wasn't, there were stacks of books, which is the same lesson that I put in my house. There were always stacks of books. You didn't have to talk about there was availability of books. There were stacks of books all the time. And what a parent does is they have some idea of the interests of their kids. Find stacks of books and put them there. Nature has a way, if you know what I mean. If you have a stack of your favorite foods around someplace, nature you will find your way towards those foods. Okay, the same thing is with any subject, with anything. So books were always there. They were accessible in the home. They were accessible in the community. There was a little small community libraries that I passed every day of my life, out playing, walking, coming back and forth to schools. So it's easy. I don't know a time when books and words and reading wasn't part of my life, because they were constant,
Wow, that's amazing. So let me ask you another question. You said there were always books. So did that mean you loved reading as a child?
Yes. I loved it. Wanted to be like those big kids. Wanted to be like, I didn't know what a college student was growing up, but I thought they were cool and beautiful. The girls were beautiful. Okay. I mean, to see as a boy, to see beautiful black girls on the beach with bathing suits way back in the, in the late 50s and the early 60s, that was just a miracle. That's what was going on. And to see them, there was the athletes, and there was games, football games on the beach that the boys played and that kind of thing. But it was the people. Remember, we didn't have but ABC, NBC, and CBS. We only had 3 stations. You know what I mean? So we didn't have that intrusion. We had magazines, we had books, we had each other. And having each other, the stories. I remember having many opportunities where writing about the stories that you heard some college student out on the beach telling you, having an opportunity to write something about what you heard, what you learned, So writing, the hook to reading, I think for me was writing. Writing about what I was listening, writing about what we were hearing. I would write about the sea, I would write about the dolphin, write about the dead well we just found on the beach, Those were things that really piqued my interest in reading.
That is amazing, absolutely amazing. So, Dr. Ernest, let me ask you another question. Who were your major influencers when we talk about reading in your life? Mom, dad, your village, the community, whom?
Well, I can't say it's one particular person, there's a story about there's a story about the first librarian that I had. There's a story about the first time taking out a book from the library. There's a story about, as a 12-year-old, going into the library on a Saturday, on a hot Saturday, where the only place with fresh water, cold water, and an AC was the library. You know what I mean? And then there's the story what mom and pops did. There's a story about what mom and pop did to have stacks of books available. But then those are stacks available all over the place. As I said, accessibility is something that we didn't struggle with. Like today, a parent, does maybe not have a easy access to a library where they can go and get books and just bring them home. Just imagine walking back and forth to school, every day, and there's a little library you can just walk in and check out books and take a stack of them and that kind of thing. And that's what we had. So accessibility is one key. Availability of books, to myself and everybody in the family. And the same thing I did, having book stacks all over the place and making it real easy. Books in big varieties of books, all the time. They'll have their choice about what it is that they want to read and find their way.
I think that's absolutely awesome. And I love the way that your parents, your folks, and your village always had books for you. Because as you said, and it's very important, Accessibility is key. Now, what was your favorite book as a child, and what is your favorite book right now?
Oh, wow. You know, at this particular moment, there's a book called The World's Greatest Secrets, and those kind of things. And that deals with, the greatest salesman in the world. I don't know if you can see that cover, but that's my favorite book as now. And it has been for a long time. It's a little fable, a little story about how to get on with life. Okay. As a child, growing up, it was books from the sea, the Jules Verne's, those kind of things, the fantasy. Because as Einstein said, I'm going to read this quote, when I examine myself and my methods of thoughts, I come close to the conclusion that the gift of fantasy has meant more to me than my talent for absorbing positive knowledge. That stays over me and has been over in my life for a long time. The gift of fantasy, creativity, and thinking about your life and fantasizing what it could be. Books like that gave me a birth. It gave me, a drive to really read more because you could think outside of the box, if you hear what I'm saying. That's what the kind of books I did about the sea and the ocean were all about.
That is awesome. So, Dr. Ernest, we're going to have to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with Dr. Ernest as we discuss the importance and power of reading.
Since 1877, Jackson State University has been training students for a life of service and leadership to impact our global society. Ranked among the best HBCUs in the country, Jackson State University offers 47 undergraduate, 37 master's, 1 specialist, and 13 doctoral degree programs. Whether you're interested in the arts, education, public health, the sciences, or business, we're here to take you from ready to JSU ready. Visit jsums.edu and apply today.
You're watching the PIC TV network, channel 1000.
Welcome back to this segment on the importance and power of reading. I have with me Dr. Ernest. Oh my God, he's such a wealth of knowledge. Dr. Ernest, thank you so much for being with us today. You are giving us so much knowledge on, number one, making sure that books are accessible. Number two, how to grab a child's interest by having books that they can relate to, like your folks had, and everything for you was around the beach where you grew up. So that's absolutely amazing. Now, my other question to you, as an educator and a professional, how has books elevated your life?
For me, learning about statistics and numbers came into my life early on. I played basketball in college. I'm sorry, not in college, but in high school. And part of my punishment for skipping out on practice and a few things is the math teacher had me keep numbers, the stats on baseball and football. I didn't know what statistics was all about at the time, but as part of my punishment, I'm now learning about, you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
And reading and understanding the power of numbers, okay, and what they really mean for ourselves. So for me, that was something. But when I made this move into the second career, being as an educational consultant, as a professor of someone, of students, my students now being teachers, then what I realized is that reading opened up an avenue for me to see truth about how sad our reading situation is, particularly for our people, particularly for our kids. And so reading more opened my mind, because I didn't see this epidemic when I was working through my first career choice. This choice opened up my mind in ways that it saddens my heart. It sickens my heart to understand that at this very moment, that realizing that in my state here in North Carolina, there's less than 15% of the young Black boys who look like me will be reading at a level of proficiency that will get them an easy time out in the job world or an easy entry into college. That saddens me, and that's what reading presented me with some truths that I didn't understand and didn't even know as a profession.
Well, you make some very salient points, because that's one of the reasons I started this broadcast, is to highlight that not only do we need to read, our communities aren't reading enough. And I know you know the statistics, but I'm going to share this with the folks at home. If our kids aren't reading by third grade on level, they have a chance of living in poverty or going to prison. And that statistic is something that we have to change. Now, you talked about boys. How can we help our boys read better?
Well, I was confronted with this for a decade. We started a program in our state. It was called Young Black and Male in America. And the teachers would come in and spend a week with us, dealing with reading issues. And some would go home and do things, and many didn't. And when I got to work with elementary school teachers and their kids, it's like the light bulbs went off. It wasn't about reading in the classroom that was the problem. It's the pathway between home and school. Remember my pathway when I went from home to school, I passed books. You got it? The typical kid today is on a bus, and they go home and they get off the bus, and that's it. They're not passing a library where they can easily go in and talk with somebody there about books the librarians, when I was growing up, they were always excited. Oh, let me tell you, I got some new books. Let me tell you about them. And if you had an interest, they go, I got another one about the fish. I got another one about the sea. I got another one about something. So that pathway there's nothing there. And so if we want to close this gap, if we want to get our kids to read, there's something that we've got to do to amplify, to make that pathway between work at the school and home exciting. There's not enough to just say, have exciting books at home. Okay. Today, there's other things that we got to do. We got to do things. For me, the project that I did with a few thousand kids was with elementary school kids. I figured out they all liked a teddy bear. Second grade and third grades loved the idea of having a teddy bear that they could read with in the classroom. Okay. It costs a little bit, but we got the funds for those teddy bears, and they got to name the teddy bear, and they got to read with the teddy bear. And eventually, after a few weeks, there was an announcement from the teacher that you get an opportunity to take your bear home for an overnight stay. We didn't have to tell the kids anything about what they were going to do. They were excited. Ooh, I got to get a book. I got to get something. I got to take something home that I can read with my bear. Got it? That went on and on and on and off for 6 months. They would read with the bear in the classroom, take the bear occasionally out for a home visit. We got reading scores to increase by 38%. Just simply that. Nothing about how to read, how to boost reading, just giving kids the opportunity to read more, to be excited about reading. These are the things that we've got to do. It's not just about reading with a bear. The bear wasn't the secret. It was how the bear was paired with something called reading. We amplified that relationship, and that's what happens. Okay? And those are the things. The typical kid has a brain that's functional, okay? That can be excited about things. What we have to do is use a little psychology in here to make connections, and pair and put those lessons out there in ways so that parents can deal with them and go with it. We can make a pencil exciting if we want to, if you know what I'm saying, about writing. If that's what we choose to do, we can amplify that relationship between holding a pen and just doing something with it, so that a kid gets home and they pick up a pen and they want to do something. They want to paint. They want to play with science. They want to be an artist. Whatever it is, we can amplify that thought about it, the connection with it, And all of a sudden, the kid's doing it spontaneously. That's what we've got to do.
Well, you're absolutely correct, because I know when kids are excited about anything, they're going to gravitate to it. And so that's one of the other purposes of bringing this to light, because there are people like you in the communities that are doing these things to elevate children and their reading and helping uplift our communities. Now, since we're talking about literacy in kids, what do you think the current state of literacy is for our children, our adolescents, and our adults here in the United States?
We're an epidemic level. You know, it's when I say epidemic, I really mean it. The typical kid who is in a black kid, I'm just talking about black kids, you know, and the white kids aren't that much better, okay? It's a sad situation when you look at statistics, when you look at the numbers. And so what we do with it here in the U.S. is we throw another program at them. Boom! It's got buzzers, it's got whistles, it's red, it flashes, and all that kind of good stuff. And we spent millions and millions of dollars on it, and then we do it, and then it doesn't work. So what do? We kind of go, well, we didn't do the program right. We need to adjust it and release another program. We've done this over and over and over. We've wasted millions of dollars on professional development, on training, millions and millions of dollars without really getting our students to make excitement the real habit. You know, it's be excited about life, be excited about school, you know, that kind of thing. When COVID hit, you know, I have an organic garden in the backyard. When COVID hit, you know, our kids were already out in the world. You know, they're out, adults with their kids. But in my neighborhood, we have some parents out here around me who had kids, you know, school-age kids. And they asked, what do you think about actually me doing something in the garden with my kids? And I go, well, I think as long as we mask up and, you know, one of you at a time, you know, let's be safe, I think it's a good idea, because through a garden, you can teach math, you can teach science, you can teach reading, you can have art, you can just have a little umbrella with a chair and just chill out time as well, you know? And that's what happened, you know? And so I'm currently thinking about what having a garden in a home, a garden space could do for a Black parent. You know, could we actually use a garden space to teach reading and writing and math, but also about living, you know, getting people to be more connected to what it is that they eat, and learning more about science and learning about organics and learning about what pesticides do, you know, for your health and that kind of thing. So yeah, you know, can we make this exciting? And according to all the feedback I'm getting from parents is they like the idea. They like the idea of having a couple pots on the deck, you know, and using that to get a kid excited about being outside and playing with the dirt and understanding what life is all about. You know, so there are many things that we could really do. It takes some, and here's the beautiful thing about it. Things don't need millions of dollars. We don't need another program on phonics or how to decode anything, okay? You know, what we can do is give a child a little field microscope. You can get for $19, a journal, a pencil, got it? You know, and a tablet, and say, I want you to spend time outside, and whatever you discover, I want you to draw it, write about it, that kind of thing. No computers necessary. Just have a good time out there and enjoy what you're doing. And a little kid, as I've done with my grandchildren, they'll just, oh, let me tell you, I saw an ant. They're excited about an ant, a leaf, a cloud. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. Our role is to get out of their way. Do what's necessary to stimulate their brains. You know, just let them think about it. You know, they'll figure it out. They can figure it out. They're smart. They're just like Einstein. Let them fantasize about what life could be. Get out of the way. It's not all this intellectual stuff. The man said it himself, the gift of fantasy. Einstein's a pretty brilliant guy. He was a brilliant man. If he's saying the gift of fantasy means more than my hard work in a book and doing all this stuff, listen. Now, the other little bit of advice I give is this. Teaching a kid how to think about their thinking is crucial. We grew up with board games. Chess initially wasn't there, but checkers was. Checkers was there. And eventually chess came in. Okay, and it still is part of what I do, and it's still part of what I do with teachers and educators. Getting them to let kids learn this game. It's not a random game. They learn systematically to think through what the pieces do, and you think, and you think. And when they're looking at the board, you can almost see their brain activating, that they're thinking about what they're going to do, which is the key skill to reading, to decoding, to really brilliantly understanding what connections really are between what you want to say and what you want to do. That's what reading is all about. Thinking about what you want to say, thinking about what a word really means or could mean, and then thinking critically how to organize your words together to make a sentence. That's what critical thinking is all about, and it comes from one place for me, the game of chess. People can get it from other ways as well, but a chessboard costs you what, $19 for life? You can pass it on to your grandkids if you wanted to. Yeah. Those are my thoughts, about this issue, about that question.
Well, those are really, really good thoughts. And board games, especially chess, bring another level when we talk about reading and comprehension. So I really like that you added that in. And parents. So like Dr. Ennis said, let's spend about $19, $20, get a chess set. They can learn what these things do. They can learn how they can go forward by learning chess and other things, going outside, experimenting with the world around you. I am so glad that Dr. Ernest is here with us today because he's given us some really great knowledge on that. So what guidance would you offer parents of boys and girls to ensure that their children are reading well today?
I mean, you got to get a little bit comfortable about what schools, what the class, what the teachers are requiring your children to do. Okay, got it. And like I did when I first started college, there was a professor, they have a book, they're teaching from, and sometimes they have two of them, and they learn what it is that they're doing. I'm a Black person, and if they do something, I want to do it better than they ever could even think about it. Okay, and so that's a value that I grew up with. So adopt some values that say, whatever is going on out here, that my child, my Black child, or my white child, whoever that child is, that I want not just the average stuff for them. I want them to over-exceed their expectations that this world has for them. Okay, so reading a book, that's easy stuff. But writing a book, oh wow, as a child, writing about what you're thinking about is one piece of advice that I give. Every parent, just writing is the way to reading. That's the way it was for me. Playing with words with a pen is one thing. Learning how to decode and getting more comprehension and having a deeper vocabulary. Of course, you get that from playing with books and everything. We don't have to read a book from the beginning to the end. Got it? In fact, Stephen Covey, one of the great ones, says, well, you should begin a project with the end in mind. Why couldn't we read the ending of a book first to understand where it went and then understand how I got there by reading it? You know what I'm saying? There are many things that we can do to stimulate fantasy and creativity in our kids, and that's what we got to do. I'm not saying just put some art sets around and just let them paint, that kind of stuff. Let them paint a picture book if you want to do that. Let them paint and create a comic book if that's what they desire. Push and press this. But every day, if you have materials around your babies to read, they'll read them. They'll pick them up. Get out of their way. Get out of their way. Your role is to just foster their creativity, to foster their critical thinking, their communication skills, their collaboration skills, the way they collaborate with their older or younger children, younger kids in the house, or even you as a parent. Just do those things, foster that, and all that ingenious stuff that's inside of them, it will naturally bubble up. So our role is to create the environment so that the genius can show up. It will come out. It's in there. Don't stifle it with this is the way and this is the only way and that's the only way, because on the chessboard, when you look at it, you kind of go, this is one way I can do it, but there's another way I can do it. There's other ways I can do it. I can see the world differently. And that's the skill that we want in reading. So I'm reading about a book about how Johnny jumped over the camel or whatever it is. Well, this is what they said in the text, but I'm thinking maybe he did it another way. And that who comes up with those other ways is critically thinking about the text. Hello.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And Dr. Ernest, we'll be right back. We have to take another commercial break. You're here with us on the PIC TV network.
You're watching the PIC TV network, channel 1000.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle, the Computer Lady, and we're having a rousing conversation with my guest today, Dr. Ernest from North Carolina, who's a clinical psychologist, but he does so many other things. Dr. Ernest, before we continue, because I'm telling you, you've got my mind on fire with all the gems that you've been dropping, all the knowledge you've been giving to our parents and our students on how to become better readers. Now, I want to take it one step further. STEM is everywhere: science, technology, engineering, and math. And when we talk about STEM education, we know how important it is. How can we integrate STEM education and reading to make sure that our kids excel in these areas?
I would describe myself as a Renaissance person. When you go into the library in the good old days, you didn't just go looking for a book. You got lost in the library and you spent time in the library. And I remember at age 12, one of those first conscious memories of going in there to get something. And my friend Harold said, you know what, we could be in here all day. And we were all day. We got lost in the stacks, reading about other things and reading. You got to encourage broad reading. In the good old days, we also had something that came into the house called encyclopedias, okay? We had those, they came into the house. Why? It encouraged broad reading about a lot of different topics. Today, you think, well, there's access to all of that. There's online, it's online, but what we do with our brain online is different when we have a book in our hands. It's the same thing with a pencil in the hand as opposed to playing with the keys on the keyboard and writing, okay? There's more of the brain involved with playing with the text in a book, and there's more of the brain involved with when you have a pencil in the hand. You hear what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So to encourage STEM is broad thinking, okay? We're doing STEM all the time. We're doing science. There's science all over the place. What we have to do is pull back a little bit and kind of go, what is the child really interested in? and see connections between it. Maybe if the child says, I'm interested in cooking. I love to cook. I want to be, or I'm interested in an art. Okay, fine. Can you find something about art that's about cooking? The artful way to cook? Cooking with art? Making them look like art pieces or whatever? Get them to think differently, or at least give them the opportunity to think differently about what the topic and how it relates to STEM. So what I've done is with something called the Dollar Microscope Project, which I learned about almost 17, 18 years ago, that there's a little paper mache microscope that a child could get and make for $1, and they could see and study things on their own, and teachers could do these kind of things. There's stuff like this that we can do. It's not to push in any area. It's really to expose the child to every area and more. Okay. My friend and mentor, Dina Rosenberg Harburg, who's at NYU in the musical theater department. So here's how it goes. So if I say, well, I want to be a producer, then she says, okay. And she talked with me about, I'd be interviewed about why I want to be a producer. And she says, this is what I'm going to have you do. As a producer, to learn about how to be a producer, I'm going to have you be an actor. But I want to be a producer. I don't want, well, if you look at it from this angle, more your brain will be open to see what producers do and think. You follow? So there's a kid who's saying, I want to be an artist. Well, that's good. What I want you to do, though, is I want you to make this, or I want you to do something outside of art, but it's really related to it, if you know what I mean. And these are the things that we have to be a little bit, not manipulative, but conscious about doing what we're doing, making certain. So the grandson says, I want to be a race car driver. And I go, well, okay, that's a good time. He wants to do this. He's seen it. He's seen these kind of things, and he's playing with it. He's just excited about it. That's good. Got a hook. Got a carrot. Now, how can I reel him into other things about physics and about math, about speed, formulas for how far, and can we use that to reel him in? Does it matter what color the car is? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. What kind of gas could it use? And you reel him in based on the interests of the child, So that's what we have to do, and be okay realizing that it's a little bit manipulative, but it is. It's good manipulation, if you know what I'm saying.
Good trouble.
Yeah, and good trouble. I love that. Good trouble. Yeah.
So Dr. Ernest, the other thing, and you're talking about grabbing an interest, which is always a great topic and always great for students of any age, because whatever a child is interested in, they'll gravitate to, and they'll do research on their own if they love it. So in that vein, and you being a grandparent now, and you have grown children, how are you making sure that your grandchildren are reading? How are you modeling that for them so they're as interested as to all the people that you help?
When there's an interest in something, and they're not in the house, they're down the road, if you know what I mean, using Zoom and that kind of thing. But when one expresses an interest in whatever it is, show it to me. I want to be excited about it with it as well. And if it's a book or whatever, or some game or something, I'm actually going to go, I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to be genuinely excited. Got it? But I'm going to let them know how excited I am about their excitement. Reinforce what you want. If you want a child to be excited about anything, be excited with them. Let them get to see it. Get them to see what's going on. It was relatively easy for me to see all these brilliant college students. I mean, come on. I thought every Black person I met when I went to college, I thought they all had that experience where they were always these black super people from college talking about life and liberty, and they were just happy and doing whatever they were doing and talking about it all the time. And I thought, wow, nope, I got blessed to actually be living and growing up in a little beach town south of Mary McLeod's Bethune's Cookman College. Okay, got it. And down the road there was Eatonsville, where Zora Neale Hurston would be living there. They do the annual festival there in Eatonsville. But Eatonsville's an all-black town, okay? So we celebrated blackness a lot. And I thought everybody had this experience, but they didn't, and that kind of thing. But it doesn't matter. You can really have experiences at home. We all have a family. No matter what it is, no matter what went down in the family, we can celebrate the people in our families. We can write the stories about them. We can write about the memories that we have about them and be excited about it. And those are the things that we have to do that we've stopped doing. The other day, my wife and I were talking about some aunts, older aunts that live away. And we're going, okay, it's time for us to send them a postcard. You know what I mean? A letter, a postcard, where we got to go to the box and, oh, this one's pretty. Let's choose this one. What do we want to say? A postcard, not a phone call. Phone call's nice. Got it. We'll do that. We do that, several times a week, but that postcard, that means more than that phone call. Because it means that I was thinking about you, that I took the initiative to pull it out and write about it and think about it, choose it, address it, get a stamp, and put it in the mail for you. That same kind of thing we do with books, to make certain that the grandkids get books in the mail. You know what I'm saying? On their topic, something that they're interested in. That it was, and I'm unannouncing it. It's not announced. It's like, wow, he sent me this book about the race cars, about this car, about that car. It's like piquing the interest even more, okay? And I might even have some notes about something about science included with that package, with that book. Those are things that we got to do. Is it manipulative? Yes, it is. But what did you say? It's good stuff. Yes.
Well, today we've gotten in some good trouble with Dr. Ernest as we talk about the importance and power of reading. And he's given us a chance to elevate how students learn, how they pick up information, and how you can help them by having access to books in the home, by getting them into the library and getting them into interest, things that they're interested in, to help them spur their love of reading on this journey. Dr. Ernest, thank you so much for being with me today. Do you have any closing thoughts?
What I do is really figure out that shoe, for that child, okay? Their interests. One thing that a teacher does, and they're just on their autopilot when they're in the classroom, it's just one thing, one size. Think about it. That one person with 20 kids, okay? One size is the easy way to teach everything. And so it really just takes the emphasis off of that individual approach that we need to make. We don't have enough good teachers out here, but one teacher can't really, I'm going to say it the way I need to do it, one teacher can't really individualize what needs to happen for 20 young minds. Peace.
You heard this from Dr. Ernest. One person can't individualize what a child needs. That means in the home, we need to make sure that they have access to books, they have access to the library, that we're teaching them towards their interest, and that we help our teachers teach and model by having books and our children seeing us read as well. Dr. Ernest was a great inspiration for me today. Now, remember, we got a lot of things going on in our society, especially when we talk about banning books or limited access to books or them not teaching the history as we know it happened. That's why you have to take the initiative to help our children and elevate our communities. I'm Michelle, the Computer Lady, and that's all for today on this segment of the importance and power of reading.
Are you a company, business, or service that believes in social responsibility? Would you like to make a positive impact? You can. You can sponsor this program and be seen by 2 million viewers on the PIC TV network. Call 770-367-1268 for more information today. You know what's going on in our society, book banning, and over 38 million children don't have books in their homes. Join me for some exciting segments as we talk about the importance and power of reading with my guest, Melissa Perkins, founder, You Think Indigo, on the PIC TV network.